It's with great pride and honor that I'm here to introduce the next two athletes to the Zeeland Hall of Fame. It's not unheard of, but it is not a common occurrence either that siblings reach this level of success. In this case, I believe it goes a stage beyond that, and I feel compelled to acknowledge the rest of the clan. When I arrived back in Zeeland and was given my dream job of coaching wrestling at Zeeland, I was blessed with a nucleus of athletes that were the heart and soul of Zeeland wrestling for the 1970s. It began with Keith and Dave. They had started the tradition and had graduated the year prior to my coming back. Steve was my first co-captain, and he was a state qualifier. Dan followed, and in spite of serious bouts with asthma, was able to contribute very significantly as well. Now, Diane didn't wrestle to the best of my knowledge, but some people have told me she probably was the best athlete in the family. At any rate, that brings me to Terry and Kay, the parents of this crew. Your children, grandchildren, and even now, great-grandchildren have been an instrumental part to Zeeland athletic success. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I'm sure I speak for many other coaches for making our job so much easier. And that brings me to this year's Hall of Fame recipients, Gino and Chucky. I'd like to start with Gene. Gene was my first state champion. He was also my second. He was also, but he did much more than that. The Zeeland Christmas Invitational, as it was originally known, which is one of the oldest, if not the oldest, wrestling tournament of an individual nature in the state, bears his name in recognition. And I'd like to read you what it says on the program that is generally handed out. Gene Robert Cry graduated from Zeeland High School in June of 1977. There are certain exceptional students in every graduating class who leave a mark behind them. Who and what they are make a significant impact on others. Gene Cry was one of those people. Everyone loved Gene simply because he loved everybody. He was 6'3" tall, big and strong, and is evidenced by 2 consecutive years as a state wrestling champion. His junior year, he was the 185-pound champ, and his senior year, the 191-pound champ. His photo is in the Zeeland trophy case at Zeeland East. Gene was also an outstanding football player. His senior year, he was given honors as all-conference and all-state honorable mention. His heart was as big as his physique. Gentleness and kindness were an important part of his character. It's for this reason that the Cry Memorial Tournament is held in his memory. I also have a letter that was sent to him upon his graduation. It tells us a little bit about his character as well. The letter reads as follows. Mrs. Smulligan has told me about the excellent progress you are making in overcoming the problems of dyslexia. You can be very proud because progress means that you have been concentrating very hard, and that shows you are facing very special challenges that confront you. As a dyslexic, I really do understand, but I might never have achieved success if I had allowed disappointment to divert me from my overcoming tough problems. I congratulate you on your recent high school graduation, and I know you will look to the college as another challenge, and I know you won't quit. I'm with you, Gene, and best of luck. This letter was signed Nelson Rockefeller. That's quite an accomplishment for a young man. At any rate, In addition to his state championships, Gene set many high school state school records. He was also named to the Grand Rapids Press All-Star team. He was first team twice and all-state wrestling team also. He was selected as a high school All-American in 1977. In football, he was a state honorable mention. In college, he earned varsity letters in wrestling and football as a freshman. Chuck was the last in the line. You may say he was the crybaby. He didn't get the recognition Gene got, but he holds most of the records today. Gene set the records in 1977, and Chuck broke them in 78. For example, best season record, Gene, 39-0. Chuck, the following year, 41-0. Best career record, Gene, 112, 23-1. Chuck, 135, 13-1. Most pins in a season, Gene, 30, Chuck, 36. Most career pins, Gene, 81, Chuck, 86. Fastest pin, Gene, 11 seconds, and he shared that with his older brother Keith for 1 year. Then Chuck, 4 seconds, which was a state record at the same time. Most tournament titles, Gene won 17 tournaments, Chuck won 23. And most of these records still stand 40 years later. His 4-second pin was a state record for many, many years. Seems like yesterday. Chuck also received numerous other awards. He was a 4-time varsity letter winner in wrestling. He was a 3-time all-conference, 3-time regional champion, 2-time took state medals, and he was 2-time Grand Rapids Press all-area member. He also in football was all-conference. He was honorable mention all-state. He was on the Grand Rapids Press all-area team, and he recorded 124 tackles in a single season to set a school record also. In a 1977 tournament, the state champions from each division were asked to compete in a tournament after the state meet. Chuck was invited to go when the Division II champ couldn't. And in the finals of that tournament, Chuck completely destroyed the 40-0 Division I champ 10-3, making him the Tournament of Champions champion. My proudest moment as a wrestling coach came Chuck's senior year. Chuck was well known in wrestling circles, partly because of Gene's success the previous 2 seasons, but mostly because of his own accomplishments. Everyone expected him to win the state title, but that wasn't to be. He was injured as a result of an illegal hold in the semifinals of the state meet and was awarded that match but had to default the next 2. Consequently, he placed 6th. When he stood on the award stand with his crutches, an amazing thing happened. As the announcer called out his name, everyone, fans from Detroit, Traverse City, Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, and all over the state, recognized him not just for his ability, but for who he was. They all stood and applauded. I've never seen that happen before or since for someone who wasn't on the top step. The whole system, the whole arena didn't stand. In his case, they did, a 6th place finisher. But that was because Chuck wasn't like other people. He was not an in-your-face winner. He didn't pound his chest after a basket's made as he ran down the court. He didn't dance in the end zone after a touchdown was made. He would often help his opponent to their feet and then shake their hand. He'd walk over to shake hands with the other coach and then come over and shake hands with me and sit down. That was the Chuck Cry I knew. and wrestling fans around the state grew to appreciate. With that, I give you Chuck Cry. He'll be accepting his award, and Gene's daughters will be coming up to accept their father's award. Thank you very much. The nerves go away as soon as you start talking.
I love that man. Thanks, Coach. Thank you, Coach Reinsberg, for 4 great years. You set the bar high and brought out the best in each of us. I remember when you put on a wrestling camp at Camp Geneva, and we hauled the mats out there on my dad's hay wagon, going 10 miles an hour out to Camp Geneva. Our goal was to win a state championship for you. And despite coming just a little short, we gave it our all. We always loved your great energy, dedication, always cheering on a wrestler, whether it was for a championship or a JV match. You said a lot of nice things about Gene and myself. Gene was a great wrestler, but even a better friend and brother. I was his biggest fan, and he was mine. I had a lot of people ask me if Gene and I wrestled in a match. The answer is only just in practice, but our best matches were on the barn floor in front of 40 cows. Coach Piersma, thank you for starting as a 104-pound 7th grader, and also for making us wear long underwear pants, shorts, t-shirts, gym shoes for practice. We're looking good, Coach. And also, thanks for being a great football coach. I still have our playbook, though I'm pretty sure I-26, I-27 were the only ones we needed to remember. Fullback leads, knocks out the end, tailback runs for a touchdown. Thanks, Pierce, a lot of great times. Finally, I'd also like to thank my parents for always being there at our wrestling matches, football games, my brothers, sisters for all their support, and the great community of Zeeland that provided this great, great athletic sport that we see here tonight. Some of my highlights: watching my brothers Keith, Dave, Steve's football team being #1 rated at Northfield, watching my brother Dan overcome asthma to wrestle, watching my sister Diane score 22 points in a basketball game, watching my brother Gene and Ron Essink both winning a state wrestling championship, and finally, being a baby of the family, it's my turn. My freshman year, making the varsity lineup as a freshman in wrestling. Sophomore year, going 9-0 in football with Steve Piersma and Bob Lommer as the coaches. In wrestling, winning the regional championship as a team and individual. My junior year, wrestling team beat Granville, who had won 79 meets in a row. The team, after being rated #1 most of the year, finished second in the state by a half a point. My brother Gene was first. Doug Van Duss and I both took second. It was my only loss of the season, losing 1-0 in overtime. I'd like to have that one back. Coach Reinsberg was Coach of the Year. My senior year, football, going 7-2, and being a very good Hudsonville team, 30-19 the last game of the year. Setting wrestling, setting the state record for fastest pin, 4 seconds. Then went to state 38-0. In the third round, I tore my ACL and I had to default to the 6th and had a standing ovation at the medal stand. I had 2 outstanding coaches in Pierceman and Reinsberg and outstanding teammates. It was a lot of fun and I had a lot of great memories. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to invite Rachel, Jean's daughter, up.
Hi, I'm Rachel. I am the oldest daughter of Jean Cry. Sadly, Jean passed away on November 24, 1986 at the young age of 27. This is truly a special night, and I know that my dad would be honored to be inducted into the Zeeland's Athletic Hall of Fame. We thank the Zeeland Boosters for this amazing award. And we say congratulations to all the 2019 inductees. All of you have represented Zeeland so proudly. Everyone loved Gene simply because he loved everyone. Gene had consecutive years as the state wrestling champion. His junior year, he was 185-pound weight class and 191 weight class his senior year. In football, of his senior year, he was given the honors of conference and all-state honorable mention. Jim Reinsberger, as his coach, was the driving force that taught him to love not only the sport, but to love everyone around him. Gene had a smile on his face, a trait that my sister and I are most complimented on. Standing at 6'3", Gene was strong yet gentle, especially as he became a dad to me and my sister. Gene was always positive. He was a man of God that loved everyone. He was dependable and he was caring. Gene was everyone's friend. Gene's legacy lives on in the lives of his grandchildren, Dirk, Millie, Lottie, and Montgomery. On behalf of my mom, Jody, my sister, Gina, my grandparents, Terry and Kay Cry, the Cry siblings, Dan, Dave, Keith, Chuck, Steve, and Diane, we thank you for this award. Thank you.
Chuck will have you back as a 104-pounder anytime at the middle school wrestling level. Next up is Dana Tishanen, and you might know her better as Dana Van Single. And she was an accomplished swimmer at both the high school and collegiate level. Her accomplishments led her to be in the Faces of the Crowd section of Sports Illustrated. Here to describe more of her storied career is Zeeland Hall of Fame coach Mike Torrey.
All right. I'd like to thank the Boosters. Another great program. I've been here 3 out of the 4. I'd like to congratulate all the winners. You are the beacon of hope in our athletics to have that as members of our community. It's my great honor to introduce one of Zeeland's finest women swimmers in the history of our program. Dana was the catalyst for 4 great years experience for Zeeland swimming program. We earned 2 outright state titles, 1 tie for a state title, and a 3rd place finish. As you can see in the program, during her 4 years, Dana won 7 individual state titles, 6 of which were new state records at that time. She was also named Class B Swimmer of the Year 3 times. Along with her team, she set 13 state championship winning times in relaying individual events. As a sophomore, we had a school of around 800 students. She was a part of a 200-yard freestyle relay that set a national record that stood for 10 years. And I don't know if people still understand a national record means you're competing against everybody in the United States. That quartet of girls set a national record that held on for 10 years. And I swear that the award that we got was a 4x6 wooden plank. It's still in the showcase somewhere. It's unbelievable. She was also academic All-American and an All-American swimmer. Dana started her swimming career like most swimmers, being part of the local age group swim team, which led to our USA team, WMS, West Michigan Swimmers, which included local area swimmers, other local swimmers. She then helped lead the middle school team and high school team in Zeeland. She was always willing to be a team player and swim whatever the team needed her to do. That's obvious by never swimming the same events at the state meet. My funny story about Dana is because she was so talented in almost everything except swimming breaststroke. We were our first year in the OK White, and we were swimming Northview, and they had a very good breaststroker. We were swimming the IM. Told Dana she had to get way ahead the first half. So she did. She was 25 yards ahead of the other girl. And if you're familiar with the swimming pool at all, you know that's a long ways. Well, Dana's breaststroke was so bad, and that girl's breaststroke was so good, they were virtually tied in the freestyle, but Dana won. So it's all good. In the off-season, she played volleyball, ran track for Zeeland. Her discipline in the classroom earned her the honor of salutatorian for her senior class. Her success in the pool and academically led to her receiving a scholarship at the University of Michigan, where she also swam on their college team. She earned her undergrad, master's, and doctorate in nursing, and still continues to be on staff as a professor at the University of Michigan, mentoring and sharing her strong work ethic with nursing students. I would be remiss if I did not mention the strong support and dedication of her parents, Don and Joe, gave to Dana and myself during Dana's swimming career at Zeeland. They were a model of support that helped mold the program into what it had become during my tenure as the head coach, with their volunteering at meets, morning breakfast, hosting team events, etc. Dana and her family were certainly a large part of history and success of the Zeeland swimming and diving program. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce to you one of my very successful swimmers, Dana Van Singel to Shannon.
I just told him, you stole my story, darn it. And yes, I really was that bad at the 100 breaststroke, for sure. So first, I want to just thank the committee for this tremendous honor, and I'm truly humbled to be inducted with such great individuals today, and certainly those that have come before me. It really is very humbling. So I just thank you for that honor. And as I was kind of reflecting back a little bit on my experience here at Zeeland, and particularly Zeeland High School, I was reminded very quickly the stories that came up weren't necessarily about winning a state championship or winning this event or winning that. It was really the people that made it such a great experience and really helped really shape me into really who I became. So first, I would be remiss not to first thank my parents. They have been tremendous. Unconditional love, unconditional support throughout my lifetime, not just in the pool, outside of the pool. One of the things that I always remember, and I laugh now because now I have children, and now I recognize really what it means to be a parent of an athlete, and it is way worse than actually being the athlete. I think back, you maybe got nervous a little bit for a meet, but you kind of shake it out and you can do your thing. as a parent, there's nothing to help you. You know, I was just at my son's final swim meet. He was a senior at his high school state swim meet, and really just, you know, I could hardly stand, couldn't eat, you know, the stomach ache, the whole 9 yards for your kids. So for those parents, really, we as kids, so thank you for that support that you give, and now I realize what that really means. For all the mornings, early mornings, when they would be driving me to practice, swimming is not one of those sports that, you know, you do once a week or twice a week. It's 20 plus hours a week that is spent in the pool. And so lots of drive time, lots of sacrifices that my parents made, and my older brother, who also sometimes was stuck driving me to the pool. I thank you for that. And also for just being there to say, it's okay. You know, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. I never heard them say, gee, you should have done this better, or, you know, maybe you should have taken a quicker turn, or, yeah, your breaststroke was terrible. But rather, they were just supportive. And I wish I could say the same for my kids, but it's hard when you have a swimmer, and I'm like, no, really, a little sooner, you know. So that was it's really challenging there. So that's probably why I have 3 children, and all 3, of course, got pushed into the pool to start. All of them, you know, we wanted them to swim because it's such a great sport, a lifelong sport, and only one stuck with it. My 2 girls were like, yeah, no, Mom, no. So then next as I was thinking about my experiences here, Coach Tori, thank you for, again, all of those hours and the support and really role modeling what it meant to be a mentor to your swimmers. When I was thinking back, I know Nancy Kamstra is in the audience as well, was one of my first coaches. I thank you too for working with me. And I remember swimming in back of the bulkhead when I was 6, probably when I started, just to get going. You know, they really were there to help all the swimmers in it really whatever it took. For my brother, sometimes he had some issues with diving, and I remember the duct tape of the knees, you know, to really try to get him to keep his knees together. So they just really do support all, and I promise, yes, it's not abuse, no. As they're saying, no. And one of my all-time favorite stories with Coach Tori was when I had made my first junior national cut in the 50 free. So this was a big thing. I was able to go to junior nationals. It was out in New York. And so Coach Tori came with me. We had a great trip out there, ready to swim fast. Kathy Tori's parents made a wonderful breakfast for me to get ready for that meet. Went there, started, warmed up, and I remember Tori sort of stopping me and saying, yeah, hey, Dana. I'm like, okay, yeah, you know, I'm ready. You're not swimming. I'm like, what? What do you mean I'm not swimming? Well, you have a senior national cut and we're at a junior national meet, which means you can't swim. And I thought, okay. So we had a great breakfast. It was a great trip. Unfortunately, the swimming wasn't what we wanted it to be, but that's okay. And so the last group that I really wanted to thank really was our team. So the other thing is I was thinking about this, a lot of the team was really what made it such a successful time and a really good time. Lots of memories where we would come over to our house before swim meets and we'd make mac and cheese and Jiffy Mix blueberry muffins, if you can believe it, before swim meets, and just having that opportunity to connect with a group of individuals who have like minds, like schedules, and really understand what that commitment it takes to be successful. So I really am so thankful for them. Since I've graduated from high school, then swam in college, as Mr. Tori said, Coach Tori, can't say I've really been in the pool since. Much of what I started running. And I will tell you now, though, as I said, swimming's a lifelong sport. And now that my hips are giving out from all my running and my knees, it's like I will be right back in the water. So I look forward to more time in the water. So thank you very much.
Our next inductee of the night made the trek all the way here from Dallas, Texas, and may win that award for most miles traveled to get here. Sarah Kamstra Miller made her impact as an athlete in the pool and on the track at Zeeland. Here to introduce Sarah tonight is longtime girls track and field coach, current football coach, and special education teacher at Zeeland West High School, Mr. Nate Vandegeech.
Good evening. It's an honor to be up here to have the chance to speak in front of you and specifically talk a little bit about Sarah. Sarah came up through Zeeland West and graduated in 2012, and Sarah's freshman year was my freshman year. It was a fresh out of college coach who got hired for a track position that probably not very many people applied for. I had very little clue what I was doing. Fast forward 11 years, and over the last 11 years, I've coached hundreds of athletes, and I'd like to think I know a little bit more of what I'm doing. Throughout that time, and throughout the 100 of athletes that I've had the honor to coach and teach and mentor, there's very few that embody the concept or the idea of student athlete. What set Sarah apart was that she was a multi-sport student athlete. And when you do as much as Sarah did, it can be really hard to balance all of those things. I remember Sarah's freshman year. Sarah was busy. On top of that, somewhere in there we should probably put dancer, because that also took a lot of her time and a lot of her energy. I'm sure she'll share a little bit about that as well, but there were a lot of meets, including some pre-state meets where Sarah would literally get on the track in her spikes with her hair done, and her dress clothes on and run her race, and she would not stop until she got off the track and into her car, and then would go to the dance competition. And I think when I think back to her freshman year, what stuck out to me was her bubbly personality. She was that freshman that was unsure of herself. She was trying to figure herself out, and she was always good for that awkward laugh to fill in the awkward moments. And she still has that ability to make the group laugh. She was a great teammate. She was a great friend. Fast forward through 11 years, and the things that Sarah has accomplished are pretty inspiring. She was a state qualifier in both track and swimming and diving. She was a co-captain in both sports her senior year, and was a great leader. She was a great mentor to the students that were below her. And again, I want to highlight student athlete. You'll see if you look in the book, you can highlight all of those academic awards, and I think that again is a huge credit to her. In the sport of track, she was a school record holder in the 100 hurdles until just a couple years ago. She still holds our freshman record. She helped our team to multiple top 10 finishes at the MITCA State Meet and several regional and conference runner-up finishes. In swimming and diving, she helped lead she helped lead her team to 3 OK Green titles and was voted all-conference 3 years. She set school records as well as the Holland Aquatic Center 11 dive record. Her senior year, she was voted the MISC Zone 5 Diver of the Year, along with All-State and All-American honors, including All-American academic honors as well. After high school, she went on to the U of M, where she dove. She was a 4-time regional zone qualifier. She was also voted a senior captain there and helped lead U of M to their first big title in 12 years. She was voted a National Strength and Conditioning Association All-American athlete and earned countless academic awards during her time at U of M, including 4-time U of M Athletic Academic Achievement Award, 3-year Academic All-Big Ten Team, 2-time Big Ten Distinguished Scholar, and the Big Ten Sportsmanship Award nominee. When I think back over my time with Sarah, one of the things that I enjoy doing as a coach, and I would probably say that any coach in here would agree with this, that our greatest joy is watching the development of boys and girls, 13 and 14 years old, and then into the development of men and women. And I think that I got to go to Sarah's wedding in December and kind of see that transition along. But starting out as that bubbly freshman who was unsure of her ability, to watch her go through those experiences at U of M, I want to share a quote that she sent me. After her junior year, which didn't end the way she wanted it to go, she sent me an email after I had sent her a congratulations on a great season. She said, "Even though I was upset and struggling, I wouldn't change any of it. It brought about motivation and a desire to train hard this summer before my last season, but also to remember the importance of my participation in diving, to engage with my teammates, and to be real, not only with my team, but with myself as well. In reality, those two competitions don't define me as a diver, and diving doesn't define me as a person. So that was after her junior year. Kind of had a freak thing that the season ended in a way that she didn't want it to end. Fast forward it to the end of that senior season, where they had just won the Big Ten title, and she sent these words. She said, it's kind of in the middle of the email, but it said, "Focused freedom." Those two words allowed me to be free exactly where I was and to find focus on the greater purpose. I was free to compete and perform without having my self-worth and self-acceptance on the line. I was able to be free in my understanding that my team had my back and that we were in it together. Acknowledging my freedom allowed me to perform to the best of my ability. There was no reason to hold back, and there was no room for self-doubt, as I had spent hours and hours perfecting my skills. It was time to shine and to perform and to have fun and to enjoy the moment. The pressure was off, and because we were all free, we were able to have the meat of our lives and perform with focus and determination. When I read that sentence as a proud coach, I saw so much more than a Big Ten championship, and I saw so much more than an athlete. I saw a student athlete who had gone from that young girl to a woman. And tonight, please join me in bringing Sarah Kamstra up to the stage.
All right, thanks Mr. Vandegooch for introducing me, and thank you to those of you who have made the decision to induct me into Zeeland Athletics Hall of Fame. I'm filled with so much gratitude to have the opportunity to share in this special day with all of you. Over the past few months leading up to tonight's event, I've had the opportunity to reflect on my involvement with athletics. When I think back to some of my first memories with Zeeland Athletics, I think back to when I was about 4 years old. Some of you in the audience might actually remember me at this age. My mom was helping coach the swim team, and I often went with her to practices. I would spend hours at the pool, and I can remember running up to Mike Torrey, hiding Tootsie Rolls to the side or behind his chair, and running away. What I didn't know at the time was that the same pool deck would be the pool where I began my diving career. In 8th grade, I began diving following my gymnastics career. I had to learn how to take my ability to do flips and twists and learn how to do a flip and a twist and then enter the water with little to no splash. I also had to learn how to enter the water without plugging my nose and at times landing head first, which we know you don't want to do with gymnastics. Believe it or not, I also couldn't jump into the pool without plugging my nose at that time. At regionals my freshman year, I looked up into the stands to find my mom doing a cartwheel. Over the course of the season, we had realized that I competed much better if I was having fun, and sure enough, looking up into the stands and seeing my mom do a cartwheel helped loosen me up, and I qualified for state that year, which led to many more involvements with state meets. Other memories that stand out to me from my diving career at Zeeland include early morning practices followed by team breakfasts, learning how to lift weights, winning conference championships, and deciding to dive in college. Some memories that stand out to me from track include team dinners the evening before a meet, learning to pole vault, the annual spring swim fundraiser at Camp Geneva, the smell of fresh spring air, and watching the coaches actually run a coaches relay. I know Coach actually talked about this a little bit, but there was actually one meet that I ran a race with my spikes on, my leotard underneath my uniform, ran my race and ran into the car to run onto the stage to balance the activities that I was involved with. Another significant memory that stands out to me about my track career was not actually on the track or in the pole vaulting pit, but actually it was in an indoor practice in the middle of the winter. There were only a few of us, and Coach actually noticed that I was a little bit on edge. Instead of telling me to run faster or push harder, he pulled me aside and sat next to me as he began to ask questions about what was going on. As I began to share about what I was experiencing, he offered me faith and insight without judgment or telling me to keep running. He offered me strength and perspective in the midst of a trying time. To me, this story does a great job of summarizing the power of sports and opportunities coaches have to positively influence their athletes. Coach, thanks for meeting me with perspective and insight on this particular day. The life lessons and strength I learned from my time with Zeeland Athletics greatly shaped the way I entered into my collegiate diving career at the University of Michigan. I had the opportunity to compete with the best of the best, be coached by some of the most successful collegiate coaches, and continue to challenge myself to pursue excellence both in the diving well and in the classroom. During my collegiate career, I experienced a coaching change, many cups of coffee with teammates, a team camping trip, and travels across the country to represent the Block M. I had the opportunity to take Bo Schembechler's sayings of the team, and those who stay will be championships, and allow them to become more than just a saying, but become a way of life. Through my collegiate career, I learned the importance of the team and learned the value of what a championship really means. Our team won the Big Ten swimming and diving championships during my senior year as a captain. This championship not only gave me a title and a ring to hold on to, but it also gave me understanding that whether we won the championship or not, my athletic career had provided me with the character, strength, and determination that would allow me to be a champion in life. I recently moved to Dallas, Texas, following my wedding, and have embarked on the journey of marriage. It's evident to me that the lessons I learned through the sports have also translated to my ability to walk through this significant time of change in my current career as a substance abuse therapist. So I recognize the common thread through the stories I've shared as the concept of connection and being part of something larger than myself. I participated in all team sports, but they all had an individual component. My points from diving or from my races would ultimately affect the team score, and this significant lesson allows me to draw the conclusion that not only in sport, but also in life, that who you are and what you do matters. As we are part of something much larger than ourselves, we have the opportunity to positively impact those around us, whether it's a team, career, friendships, or family. I'd like to bring these memories full circle and would like to encourage you to consider the importance of life lessons learned through sports. Setting goals and pursuing dreams, being part of something larger than yourself, creating change and experiencing self-growth, accepting the unknown, embracing the journey, having fun along the way, and understanding that who you are and what you do matters. I'd like to thank Coach Vandegooch, Mr. Inman, Mr. Torrey, Nancy Clyde, Becky Van Ravensway, my husband Josh, and my brothers, and anyone else who has impacted me and supported me along the way. I also want to thank you, Mom and Dad, for the countless athletes that you've also impacted in a way that only coaching can do, and also the way that you've affected and impacted both my brothers and I, not only as athletes, but as individuals as well, and the lessons that you taught us from when we were yay high to carry us through to our careers and our personal lives now. So with that, thank you.
Mickey Cochran is a name that is synonymous with basketball in Zeeland. He's a snowbird and has traveled specifically from Florida to be here this evening. And Coach, thank you. Coach, also, you need to know that I've been trying for years to get this Dutch skin to look like that, and I am incredibly jealous. But here to introduce him and his numerous accomplishments is his son, Jason Cochran. Let's give him a hand.
First of all, don't get me wrong, this is a beautiful building. They did a really good job. This is a beautiful place for this event. But man, I hated this place. And I actually talked to somebody out there and they said, Dad, you are the second best Mickey that has ever coached in this building. I think he had a Holland Christian sweatshirt on or something. First of all, guys, if I see you looking in your laps, I completely understand. It is March Madness, so look away. For this next inductee of the night, I had the privilege getting to play a lot of different roles in his life. First of all, obviously, as one of his sons. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. And for us, nothing could have been better than being a coach's son. We never got sick of going to the literally hundreds of games and practices, and I know that never got old. The gym was pretty much our second home, but I don't think any of us would have wanted it any other way. Secondly, I got to be one of his students. A lot of the kids in school would ask me, what's it like having your parents at your school with you? Most of the other kids couldn't imagine having their parents with them at school every day, but I loved it. In fact, some of my friends and I tried to spend as much time as we could down there in the old city side on the benches by the gym, try to hang out there and try to get into one of the Lifetime 5-on-5 games if we could. Well, we were supposed to be in another class, but Another role I got to play was to be one of his players. I was fortunate to have my dad coach me for 9th grade football, varsity baseball, and varsity basketball. Not to mention all the years of Little League and other things as a little one. And from personal experience and seeing other coaches, that I know it can be difficult to coach your own kids. Am I being too hard on my kids? Am I being too easy on them? But you can't just be focused on your own kid like a typical parent would be at their games. You have a whole team to coach and advocate for, and I don't ever remember feeling like I was any different than any of the other players on the team. I get chewed out the same as any other kid, but I'd also get as much praise as any other kid on the team. And I know it's not easy to do, but no matter what happened, when we got in the car together after practice or a game, he was right back to just being a dad. But it's also very easy to see how much of an impact he had on all his other players. He has had many of his former players go on to become coaches, many of those being an assistant of his at some point, which leads me to my last role that I had of being an assistant coach. I know there's some other assistant coaches that he's had here, so you guys all know the game of guessing when the sport coat comes off. We'd all write a time down of when we thought it would come off. In this place, probably pretty early. And they'd also know when to look out for the flying elbows on the bench. Usually when somebody screwed up, there was definitely some casualties from the flying elbows. And to this day, my dad and I are still coaching together. Every year we have been coaching my kids' Little League teams and their basketball teams. Now he calls himself my assistant, but we all know who the real coach is. He has just as much energy as ever and puts everything he has into every team. Every practice, every game, he still has a competitiveness and is still always having fun. And it's definitely contagious with every team that we coach. All the kids love him and feed off of his energy, and that's how it's been his whole career. And for all this time I've spent with him, I have realized that he's one of the most humble people that I've ever known. I have never heard him talk about all the wins and accolades and the awards, which, as you can see, there's a whole line of them in the program. He was never in it for that. It was always about the relationships and teaching the kids the right way to play the game. And every day that I coach, I use him as a model for myself and how I want others to see me. So congratulations, Dad. And even though you're not big on this kind of stuff in the awards, you deserve it. So please welcome my dad, Mickey Cochran.
Thank you, Jason. What a great night this is. We've been in Florida during March, so this is the first one I've been able to come to, and it's so great to see former players, former coaches that we've coached together, and friends and students and parents of students and players. It's a great place, and I'm very fortunate to be here. I have to first congratulate the other inductees. I feel like I know them. Sarah, I remember you being born. I wasn't there, but I remember her being born. And Dana, a long time ago, not too long ago, I had Dana in class, and sorry, it brings back a lot of memories too. And Pierce was one of the first guys I met when I came to Zeeland, and what he's like a father to me. I always have to take a shot at Pierce. And in fact, it's the way they set this up with Sarah representing the 2000s and Dana the 1990s, and You've got the Cries in the 80s and 70s, and I'm mixed in there for a long time. And then Pierce representing the 1800s. You know, I always thought that was pretty cool the way they separated that. And I love Pierce. You know, I always have to take a shot at him since I'm going first because I know it might be coming second. So, congratulations to all the inductees. You know, and it's great to get an old guy award. You know, and that's kind of what I get, and what Pierce is getting too. And you know, when you get those longevity awards, there are always so many supporters, so many people that have just kind of paved the way. And you know, anytime you're talking about longevity, you better have a very understanding and patient wife. And I was blessed to have that for over 40 years. Where my wife Judy was at probably every game. I know she only missed a handful of games over 40 years, and that's a true supporter. But if you were to ask Judy or myself what our greatest source of pride is, it wouldn't be coaching and it wouldn't be teaching. It would be seeing that our three sons, Jason, Mike, and Brian, have grown up to be strong in their faith, committed to their beautiful wives, Brenda and Nicole and Leah, and great fathers to their children or our 12 grandchildren. And to me, that is a great source of pride. It's great to see them in their chosen careers gain respect, act with integrity, and are well respected by their peers. So that to me is a great source of pride. You know, when you talk about the term influence, you know, your parents. A lot of you are parents out here, and you have kids, and you know the amount of work that it takes to take them to practice and to games and all the things that go along with that. My parents were the same way, and I owe them. They've both passed on, but I owe them so much. They influenced me to do things the right way, and they were at probably every game I ever played as a kid. So, you know, if you're a parent, you got to know that that's going to have a great effect on your kids later on. Besides my parents, I think the influence that affects me the most is that of the former coaches that I've had growing up. And I was very fortunate to have great coaches, great men that demonstrated the right way to play, the right way to live. And in some way, I think all of us who were athletes or played athletics are products, for better or for worse sometimes, of the coaching that we received, or the coaches that we worked with when we were younger. I was fortunate to have those coaches that tried to teach me some skills. One was goal setting, trying to teach individual and team goal setting. Also, how to work hard to achieve those goals. They tried to teach me self-discipline. Sometimes it didn't take right away, but they kept at it. They kept pushing like a coach would. And sometimes it took, sometimes it didn't. They taught by not only the way that they coached in practice and in games, but also in their lifestyle, a sense of integrity that was passed on, not merely by preaching it, but by action. The skill of perseverance, never wanting to quit. I can see the coach's face right now, each of them from 5th grade right on through college. And you know, that's the one thing that you would always come away with, that don't ever give up in whatever you're doing. And then probably, I don't know, it might be most important, is the sense of humor, that it's a skill, that you keep it no matter where you're at, whether you're in a game in practice or whether you're in life. You know, everybody needs to have a good sense of humor and not take themselves so seriously. So I really thank those coaches for the things that I was taught. The things that I miss the most since I retired 4 years ago the relationship with the coaches that I was able to coach with. I brought on some young guys a lot of times and over the years, and it's always great to have a fresh viewpoint and to have that extra spark of life that I have. And some of those coaches are in here right now. And you know, I really miss the relationship that I had with them, and even some of the coaches I coached against. And even some referees, not too many of them, but even some referees, I do miss interacting with it. I was very fortunate to have two very supportive athletic directors at Zeeland and Zeeland East Schools, in Stan Jeske and Tim Ritzma, and definitely the best athletic secretary you could ever have in Pat DeWitt, where she took care of all the coaches. You're right, she deserves a ton. And looking back at the 26 years that I was at Zeeland and coached at Zeeland in different sports, just seeing the players, and I see some here tonight, and I run into them in town and stuff, and the players and students that I had, it's always fun to think back of the good times and the fun times that we had in class and actually in the sports that you played. But I miss those, and I miss those relationships. And on behalf of all those people that I mentioned, all the supporters that I had, you know, I don't know if I'm worthy, but I definitely would accept this award on behalf of them, because you know, without all the people that I mentioned, you know, we wouldn't even have a banquet like this. You know, so this is great. So I thank the Zeeland Boosters for the induction and the beautiful ceremony that we've had here, and I appreciate this, and thank you very much.
Coach Cochran, you mentioned missing all those referees. I never once saw you yell at a ref, so I'm sure they all missed you too. Basically the utility man of Zeeland Athletics, spanning over a 41-year coaching career, a man that coached more sports than he didn't. Steve Piersma, who will be introduced by Doug Decker.
First of all, I've just been handed a note. Steve gave up eating meat for Lent, and his chicken will be on auction in the lobby afterwards. And see Mike Torrey if you're interested in bidding on any of that. And also, I'm at a disadvantage. Bob Lammer told me this was a roast. So there's not a lot I can tell you anymore. Pierce awake. In 1968, the Zeeland Board of Education, perhaps by recommendation of Ken Lewis, took a gamble and hired a local boy by way of West Ottawa High School and Hope College, son of Frank and Lois Piersma, as a middle school PE teacher and freshman football coach. It's not uncommon with a new hire. They probably wondered what else this gentleman could do besides teach. And I'd like to take just a moment and ask you to participate with me if you would. If you played any sport for Pierce in your lifetime, would you raise your hand and keep your hands up for just a couple of moments? If Pierce was a teacher of yours, could you join us and raise your hands? If you were a coaching colleague or a teaching colleague of Pierce, could you raise your hands? If you had a child who played on a team for Pierce. If you consider yourself a friend of Pierce. If you'd be willing to buy Pierce a drink after the banquet, would you raise your hand? Pierce didn't think anyone would remember him. See that, Pierce? The amount of lives that Pierce has touched through wrestling to football, baseball to softball, boys track to girls track, middle school to high school, 81 seasons of coaching, 38 years in football alone. The amount of lives he touched is staggering. And if you add to that 32 years of being a science teacher and a PE teacher, I'm sure the numbers rival in the thousands. In 1968, the Zeeland Board of Education took a gamble, and they won. And we won too because we got Pierce. And so, to a former teacher of mine, and a former coach of mine, and a former coaching colleague of mine, and a friend forever, it is my honor and privilege to introduce the 2019 Athletic Hall of Fame inductee, Stephen F. Piersma.
Well, I don't know if they saved the best for last, but I know they saved the oldest for last. First, I'd like to thank Deck for that glowing introduction. And I would like to thank the committee for my nomination and for supplying this beautiful venue. I'd like to recognize some of the head football coaches I've worked under, numerous assistant coaches who've worked with me, athletic trainers, athletic directors, and especially the athletic secretaries, and make sure everything runs smoothly. After coaching for 41 years at Zeeland, covering 81 seasons, over 5 decades, there are a lot of numbers out there. There are a lot of stories. Yes, I did call 3 double reverses in a row. And yes, we did have a full contact scrimmage during one halftime of one game. But more importantly, I've had the opportunity, the privilege, the honor, and the great pleasure of coaching some of the finest young men and women to walk the halls of Zeeland Public Schools. By my conservative estimate, some 2,400 student athletes. Among those are doctors, lawyers, builders, sports writers, members of all branches of the armed forces, college athletes at all divisions, bankers, musicians, nurses, coaches, teachers, principals, plumbers, realtors, truck drivers, landscapers, ministers, professional athletes, friends, mothers, fathers, and probably more than a few great-grandparents. Behind every successful man is a great woman. I was blessed to have Gracie's love and support for 37 wonderful years. I thank her for always having my back, and I know she's proud tonight. Again, thank you for this honor.
As you can see, this is an incredibly diverse and worthy group of Hall of Fame inductees. Please join me in officially welcoming these 6 members into the 2019 Zeeland Athletic Hall of Fame.
In the back of your program booklet, on the second to last page, you will notice a nomination request form for the 2020 Hall of Fame. There's a black and gold drop box in the atrium if you would like to submit a nomination tonight, or otherwise feel free to drop off nomination forms to the Zeeland East and or Zeeland West athletic offices. Otherwise, this form can be found anytime on both the Zeeland East athletic page and the Zeeland West athletic page under the Boosters tab, or in either athletic office at both high schools. Now, this next part was given to us and it's in bold, which means it's extra important. Everyone right now, if you could please remove your name tag and put it in the bag on your table. Reportedly, Boosters started with like 350 of these a few years ago and we're down to about 260. And for checkout procedures, please refer to the front cover of your auction booklet. Checkout is now open in the lobby and there are multiple lines. Each guest is expected to pay for your bids tonight, otherwise we will hunt you down. We accept cash, check, or credit cards. Auction items are ready for pickup at checkout once payment is received. Help loading is available upon request. Booster board members are wearing colored name tags and are available for help. Thank you once again for joining us on this exceptional evening. We look forward to seeing you again at the next spring when the Zeeland Hall of Fame welcomes in the next class, the 2020 class. Enjoy the evening. Thanks again.